Hi, it's Bill and Melissa with Wandering Highlanders. In this episode, we're going to give you our firsthand look at the Villa Vie Odyssey, what it is, who it's for, and we're going to talk about if it was right for us.
By the end, you'll have a solid feel for what life was really like on board for us.
Now, here's a quick disclaimer. I'm not affiliated with the Villa Vie, okay? Everything here is our own personal opinions, our personal experiences, stuff that we've gotten from the official website or publicly available information. This is our story and our experience. You'll hear me say this again in this video. Your mileage may vary.
This is our very first civilian cruise ever. We have no other basis to compare our experience with. In fact, most of the people we encountered on the Villa Vie Odyssey who opted to stay long-term were already familiar with shipboard life and taking multiple cruises. So, for those folks, the restrictions and challenges of living aboard a cruise ship were no problem.
So why are we here? A random article popped into my feed and I started doing research and I was kind of hooked. The more I learned, the more it clicked, the more I was hooked.
We've both served in the Navy, and we've both traveled the world separately. We've always had wanderlust. As we've moved closer to retirement, the idea of a traveling home at sea and traveling internationally together, it checks a lot of boxes.
So I'm going to show you around. I'm going to talk to you about what she is, what she isn't, and let you decide if it might be right for you. So let's talk. What is the Villa Vie Odyssey? It is a residential cruise ship that offers long-term voyagers designed for people that actually want to live at sea. Keyword, live. Residents can buy or rent cabins, called villas here, for anything from a short segment to 15 years, and theoretically the life of the ship, however long that may be. Her smaller size means that she can reach unique ports that some big ships can't. She is not a mega cruise liner. Who is the Odyssey a best fit for? Middle class and above, expats, retirees, digital nomads, wanderlusters, or anyone who prefers longer stays in port and smaller, less touristy destinations. It's for people who want to escape the normal retirement life. You have to be willing to take a risk and wander away from your home for weeks or months or years. It is not for anyone expecting ultra luxury, casinos, or a theme park style cruising experience. I'm going to reiterate, this is not a booze cruise and it is not a mouse house with tons of activities for families and kids. This ship is a home, and you will find people from all walks of life, nations, interests, backgrounds, affiliations, and cultures. But no matter what, everybody has the common bond of wanderlust travel. So because of that, we felt pretty well connected with just about everybody on board, and that was really special. I'm going to do a bit of a dive into the health and wellness because this is something you really have to think about, especially if you're considering long term. There is a doctor and nurses on board, but it's really just emergency stuff only. My key takeaway on the health side of things is if you're a retiree considering this lifestyle, or if you're a digital nomad considering this lifestyle, you need to really research and secure your international health insurance with evacuation coverage. You have to clearly plan your medication strategy. You need to probably do periodic trips back home for preventative care and do major checkups. You need to be realistic. If you have complex issues, multiple unstable health needs, full-time life on board the ship might not be safe. Do it short term, no problem. So what was it really like on board? That's really what people want to know, right? First, let's be honest. The Odyssey is not luxury. It's a community. The residents host parties, they lead excursions, they do trivia nights. There is what I truly call a sense of ohana on board. It is family. Everyone comes from different walks of life, but everyone loves to travel. That ohana, that family community atmosphere permeates everything. Let's talk our list of the goods. You unpack once, you see the world. You can get up to 28 days of free days where friends and family can come visit and experience the ship. You have your Starlink, Wi-Fi, so remote work is realistic. There is a genuine friendly community. We met amazing people who treated us like neighbors. On board, you have the ability to customize your cabin. If you have the funds, you can make your cabin what you want within reason. The laundry and the housekeeping is included. There's even a separate laundromat, so if you want to do your laundry yourself, go for it. She is a smaller ship, so you can go to unique ports. That to me is a win right there. I loved the freedom from the daily chores, the daily grind, not having to worry about grocery shopping, food preparation, doing the dishes, doing, the house cleaning, and quite frankly, just the normal house maintenance that goes with owning a home. You don't have to worry about any of that. I loved waking up every day to a new horizon, to new weather, to new experiences. The food was good. In the Navy, especially in submarines, they always said the food will determine the morale. And I thought the food on board was really pretty good. Okay. But again, we're not bougie travelers. So we had different expectations than maybe others will. We found the service and the crew to be fantastic. We got excellent service. We got very close to our food servers. The girls that worked the omelet and the pasta bar, love you girls. Y'all were awesome. And all the other food service staff that we had was very sweet and very wonderful. There were a lot of tears shed and a lot of hugs when we said goodbye. I found that it was possible to lose weight while on board. I was easily walking 6 to 10,000 steps a day, and I ate very keto-like, very carnivore-like with low sugar, low carb options. Generally speaking, not including the travel insurance, the budget compared to living at home, I will say do your own math. But if you're talking about an inside cabin at $4,000 a month for your monthly fees for a couple, and that's the smallest cabin, goes up from there. Compare that to your mortgage, your insurance, your car payments, car insurance, utilities, grocery bills, basically everything but your cell phone. Compare that and take that budget that you have for yourself and then compare that to the cost of your cabin and plus your travel insurance, and that will give you an idea about whether or not this is affordable for you. All right, now let's get to the bad. Yes, there are some bad aspects. The ship shows her age. Maintenance is constant, but I noticed maintenance was constant. We did find occasionally some poor Wi-Fi. Your mileage may vary. When we left Mexico, for a couple days, it was really, really bad. Other times, it was solid as all get out. There are also occasional temperature fluctuations in your cabin. We would experience that even just on a 24-hour cycle. And Midlife Cruising recently did a video about the heat in Tokyo. Like they've had parts break and times struggling to overcome if it's way hot where they are. You have to be prepared for that. Likewise, the ship's schedule might have to change based on storms, weather, political unrest. We have a family saying semper gumby, as in always flexible. If you go to the ship, you need to be flexible. This is not just where they go from point A to point B and point B to point A and repeat every single week. It isn't like that, and that will impact the ship. You're going to have some limited, what I call living room comfort. No recliners, no plushy couches. I found most of the seating to be what I call pretty or formal, but not necessarily comfortable or casual. But we are far more casual people. I found that the dining there's variety, but it can also get repetitive. But I also, quite frankly, ran into that at the DFAX when I was deployed to Kuwait or when I was on board a sub. Another bad thing was there really isn't enough dedicated remote workspace. They're not soundproof. They filled up. There is a wait list. Another thing that was annoying is that ice and some other small amenities were really surprisingly hard to come by. We also found that shipboard announcements were really hard to hear depending on your location. Something else that you'll have to be prepared for is there's very limited extra storage space. So if you have golf clubs, a bike, scuba gear, whatever, not really a lot of extra storage. So you have to find a way to fit that into your cabin because if there is extra storage, it will fill up quickly. Another gripe that I personally have is there isn't a real piano in the Morning Light Lounge. The speakers were pretty poor. There were very poor acoustics, poor fidelity, and it was really hard to hear the music. And they had a great concert pianist who was very talented. And that wasn't the best place for her. Get a real piano in there. That keyboard doesn't do it justice. Another thing, she's a smaller ship, so she might rock a little bit more than larger ships. A question that I received even today was, were we there long enough to see some sights? Yes, to a point. There is absolutely the time crunch that you're going to feel on the clock that you have to get back before departure time. For one-day ports, it's like drinking through a fire hose, and you are constantly feeling that pressure of the clock the closer that you get to departure time. You will have to be selective in what you do, where you go, and when you get back. Absolutely, you cannot miss cast-off times, or Captain Val will be quite unpleasant with you. Personally, I would rather that they do fewer ports, but do longer term stays in those ports to allow you to get more out of it, less drinking through a fire hose. In the example of our trip, it took 7 or 8 days to cross the Pacific. Then 2 days on Oahu. Okay? Not 3 days would be better. 4 days would be amazing, right? 2 days in Lanai. We only did 1 day in Maui, 1 day in Kona, and 2 days in Hilo. For the amount of time that they took to go across the Pacific to Hawaii, and then only those few days, and then another 6, 7, 8 days, whatever, to cross the Pacific back to San Diego, that is an awful lot of sea time with so little time in Hawaii. I really think that they would have benefited from extending the time in those ports. Now, let's talk the ugly. This ship is not suitable for babies or people with young kids. This is catered towards retirees and digital nomads. If you need 5-star polish and luxury and service, this isn't your ship. Medical limitations will require serious planning. We found that ship life meant constant interaction. Your villa is your private space, but once you leave your villa, we found that we were always on. That feeling of always being on could be emotionally draining over time. There is absolutely nowhere near enough soundproofed room for remote workers or remote offices or booths. There is open hoteling space, but if you need to make private phone calls or you're a louder talker, okay, that could be difficult. So you might have to do all your remote work out of your cabin. Personally, and this is just my thought, is I find that the square footage space of the Grampian restaurant to be an absolute waste of space. I think that they ought to turn that into remote spaces, rent them out. They need to convert that space to something more valuable than what it currently is. Along those lines, there are amenities that had been advertised early that simply aren't available now, weren't available then. They were under repair. Okay, the golf simulator that was advertised early is still theoretical. And when we were there, the hot tubs and the pools were being fixed. Okay, so we got very limited use out of that. But from what I've seen, they've been working great since then. Let's finally talk about the elephant in the room. This company does have possible financial instability. There is a lot of chatter online and has been from the beginning, questions about the company's long-term viability, solubility, right? So investors and buyers, please beware. You have to be willing to take that risk. This is a startup and it is a risky venture. Everybody on board was intimately aware of that. You cannot consider making a major purchase here without being willing to take the risk. What did we miss most, or what were the challenges for longer stays? I really missed having a quiet, private living room space. I missed my recliner. I missed my comfy couch. If you have a sectional at home, it's kind of challenging shifting over to this. No dogs allowed. A big challenge long term is we'd miss our cats. While there are a few felines on board, I do believe there's a limit. So, at minimum, we personally would have to wait for our kids to be in a position to take care of our fur babies. Then you have to consider logistics for your cats. We're talking litter, cleaning your litter boxes, disposing of it, the smells, food, etc. Now, there are a couple cats on board, and I'll give a shout out to Captain the Cruising Kitty. He's living his best life ever. Another thing that I missed is a home theater type of experience. If you're used to this at your house, the best that you'll get is the Neptune Lounge. I also miss the ability to cook private meals, do family recipes, etc. So if you want to do this, you're going to have to rent an Airbnb or a Vrbo when you're in port and do it there. I found that ice was a pain to get. There is no resident accessed ice machine. You have to ask for it from a waiter, and you have to wait for them to go get it for you. I love me some iced coffee, and that was problematic, especially when it's hot out there. The other thing on coffee, there's limited drip coffee and limited creamer options. There was drip coffee in the business center. I tried it once. It was watered down and terrible, and I never touched it again. If you have a particular creamer, a no sugar or an oat milk or an almond milk that you're really used to, the logistics for that can be kind of difficult. Your in-cabin fridge won't give you enough to last for any length of time, and I really don't know what the logistics would be if you want something special. Also, once you leave the US, you might have to be really flexible with locally sourced options. We notice that, like all ships, the Villa Vie is very particular about what small appliances that you can have in your room. So if you're planning on staying longer, you might have to not have some of the amenities that you're used to at home. Another thing along those lines is personal or favorite spices or sauces. Some residents do keep a personal stash of favorites on board. Mine is red robin salt. I did that when I was deployed to Kuwait, and I had people asking for that taste of home all the time. We did end up missing some simple comfort foods. While the food was amazing, it was very rich, and sometimes our personal palate just craves something as simple as an Eggo waffle. We got that at our Vrbo in Hawaii. When you bring stuff into your room, you will fill your space quickly. You have to live ultra minimalistic. You bring something in, you might have to take something out, or it's going to get full fast. There's limited closet space. So if you love having a huge wardrobe, you might have to consider buying a couple cabins and making your own mega cabin. And we talked about it before, but really there is an issue in long term. The constant social interaction can definitely wind you down. It did for us. Okay. I had to add this in at the last minute because I can't believe I almost forgot it. I would miss concerts. I go to several concerts a year. I have several bands that I try to follow, and I absolutely love live music. Being away from that and not being able to plan and schedule things out to plan to go to particular concerts would be a really hard thing to walk away from. So whatever it is in your world that's really special to you, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to walk away from that for up to years? Food for thought. So those are the main hurdles that I would personally have to reconcile before really considering living there long term. Would we go back? Would we move there? People ask us this all the time. Again, this is just my personal thoughts. Your life needs, your medical situation, your family dynamics, and literally 1,000 other variables will determine your decision. As I've said before, your mileage may vary, and I mean it. Now, if you ask me on day 2 or 3, I would have told you I would sell everything, pitch everything, just fully go. Melissa would not have. In fact, that led to some really interesting conversations over the course of the trip. By the end of our time on board, this is the decision that we personally made. We could see ourselves doing this for segments, maybe 3 months out of the year, but I don't believe that I could personally live there on board full time as much as I wanted to. As much as fanboy Bill wanted to, I think I'd have to do it part time. I'd have to do it in segments or chunks. We would need to do serious financial preparations for an ongoing life of this magnitude. Right now, I'm only semi-retired. We'd need a lot more passive income to be able to be comfortable doing this long term. I would also need to have more remote work or a active remote income. We also have a very deeply rooted personal community. We're involved in our church. I do charity events. I do geek events, Comic Cons, Ren festivals, that sort of thing. I'd have to leave my plastic spaceman armor behind, limit my amount of costume trooping, although it would give me the ability to meet Mandalorians and 501st people and rebels all over the world. So there's a win for that. Maybe I take a soft goods costume only. Another challenge long term is the medical costs, insurance, and the aspects of being an expat are really something that we're not ready for. We definitely need to do a lot more research on that before we're ready to go beyond a vacation or a segment or a holiday. Next is the kids and grandkids. We have adult children, but when we came back to Indiana, some things changed very rapidly after we got back, and we were really glad to be right there. And we were there for our kids. If we were on the other side of the planet, that would have been problematic. And our kids are about the time and the age ready to start having kids so that we can be grandparents. Yay! We want to be present, or at least semi-present for that. And being away from the US for a couple of years or longer would make that very, very difficult.
So to wrap it up, we were on board the Villa Vie Odyssey for 17 days.
Crossing the Pacific on the surface aboard the Odyssey was a bucket list experience that I will never forget.
The Odyssey is not perfect. It's quirky, imperfect, and very different from mainstream cruising, which we've not done yet. If you want to consider it, I personally suggest that you try before you buy. Get on board, meet the people, walk the ship.
Run the math, talk to a financial counselor. You need to talk this over with your family and friends. You need to seriously consider all of the benefits and all of the pitfalls.
But for those willing to embrace the quirks, it does offer something rare, a genuine home at sea, a community of wanderers, and a chance to circle the world without ever unpacking again.
For us, it was an unforgettable vacation. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be the start of something bigger. Here's hoping, and we'll find out as the journey continues. Thanks for being with us. Okay, that was a good landing.
That was a good landing.
Now let's hit your power button.
To hold it.
Push it and hold. Pushing the wrong one. You were pushing the Bluetooth button.
Which comes the power button?
The one with the circle on it.
Oh.
That looks like every other power button.
I didn't know there were two buttons. Yeah, those. I pushed the biggest button I saw.
Story of my life.
I'm just like,
all right.
really?
Tipped off, eh?
Really?
Yep. Yeah, totally.
You're such a brat.
I am such a brat. And we're still recording. I might put that in there.